Warren Buffett spoke at the Berkshire Hathaway 2020 annual shareholders meeting, in which the legendary businessman discussed a whole range of topics. The shareholders meeting was over 5 hours long, and here, at Factuality, we understand you may not have time to sit through the whole thing. So we've cherry-picked the 10 most important takeaways so you can improve your business acumen without having to sit through the whole meeting. If you find yourself learning lots from this video and want to stay informed in the future, consider hitting the subscribe button and clicking the bell to enable notifications. Be sure to leave a like also if you enjoy this video, as it lets us know we're doing things right. So without further ado, let's begin. Absent friends. Buffett began the meeting by discussing the impact of COVID-19 on the event, which is held annually for Berkshire Hathaway shareholders. He kicked off the meeting by stating,
"It doesn't look like an annual meeting. It doesn't feel exactly like an annual meeting. And it particularly doesn't feel like an annual meeting because my partner of 60 years, Charlie Munger, is not sitting up here."
A new type of meeting. Something Buffett also addressed at the beginning of the meeting was the format for what is usually a meeting of Berkshire Hathaway shareholders in person. Whilst Buffett and Greg Abel, who is Berkshire's vice chairman of non-insurance operations, were both in physical attendance, as was journalist Becky Quick, the rest of the shareholders, including Buffett's right-hand man, Charlie Munger, were not. Many instead joined the meeting by video conference call, which may hold future implications for AGMs and shareholder meetings everywhere, especially in the year to come following the COVID pandemic and the gradual return to normality. Buffett on COVID. Obviously a hot topic at the moment, COVID-19 has had a far greater impact than just our personal health and healthcare systems. Buffett discussed the virus frankly, refraining from making an opinionated comment on the duration of the pandemic, but instead being practical and pragmatic in his discussion about the virus and its economic impact.
Most people think, and they know more about it than I do, that the virus will, to some extent, decline in its spread during summer months. And I would say a good many think that it will come back at some later date.
Buffett said, before adding that,
"We're doing a lot of smart things, and we've got a lot of very smart people, but there are unknowns, and the unknowns that apply to the health aspect create unknowns in the economy, and we'll have to keep evaluating things as we go along." I hope, like crazy, obviously, that once suppressed, it doesn't come back, and that we readjust.
Airplanes. Buffett had choice comments to make on the airline and aerospace industry, revealing that he believed he had, quote, made a mistake, unquote, with his investment in 4 major U.S. airlines, including American Airlines and Delta Air. Buffett then revealed that this was the reason why the company sold $6.5 billion worth of equities in April. He suggested that Berkshire no longer holds any shares in the aforementioned airlines, Southwest Airlines and United Airlines. Aerospace. However, Buffett had a more positive outlook to share on the aerospace giant Boeing. The airplane manufacturers are, quote, one hell of a company, unquote, in Buffett's words, but he also noted that after the COVID pandemic comes to an end,
they really don't know what their future is, and I don't know what their future is. We're gonna have aircraft in this country. We're gonna be flying, but the real question is whether you need a lot of new planes or not, and obviously affects Boeing.
Paycheck Protection Program. As expected, a large portion of Buffett's discussion centered around the economic impact of COVID-19 on the United States. The Berkshire owner praised the efforts of the U.S. policy and lawmakers for, quote, acting properly, unquote, on the issue of offering aid to small businesses who need to help to survive this current climate. He added that it was, quote, very good idea to take care of people having terrible trouble taking care of themselves in a period like this, unquote. Oil mistakes. During the meeting, Buffett was questioned about his investment in Occidental Petroleum last year, after a shareholder felt prompted to as a result of the volatile price of crude oil over the past month and a half. In response, Buffett admitted that he had made a mistake.
If you're an Oxy shareholder, or any shareholder in any oil-producing company, you join me in having made a mistake so far in terms of where oil prices went.
Buffett continued to predict that oil production will continue to drop in upcoming years, as those companies drilling for oil will increasingly find the cost of drilling outweighing the profits brought in as a result. As a possible reason for this, Buffett suggests it was the competing production of Russians and Saudi Arabians who were, quote, were trying to outdo each other in how much they produce, unquote. That resulted in a buildup of oil stock and therefore resulting decreased in valuation. Equities over Treasuries. Buffett is well aware of people's reluctance to invest in this current market. The volatile and unpredictability associated with a global crisis means that it can be difficult to create a detailed plan for the future, and Buffett acknowledges that whilst providing some blanket advice for those who are still investing. The Oracle of Omaha suggested that equities should be an investment priority over Treasuries because, as he puts it,
equities are going to outperform that bond. They're going to outperform Treasury bills. They're going to outperform that money you've stuck under your mattress. I mean, they are a enormously sound investment as long as they're an investment and they're not a gambling device or something that you think you can safely, buy on margin.
Further COVID comments. In a time of crisis such as this, investors located all over the world will be looking to the planet's leading businessmen and businesswomen for advice and comment on the crisis and its economic impacts. However, Buffett's comments conveyed a sense of uncertainty that, whilst entirely valid and justified, will not come as reassurance for investors and shareholders across the globe. He stated,
"The range of probabilities on health have narrowed down somewhat. I would say the range of probabilities or possibilities and on the economic side are still extraordinarily wide. We do not know exactly what happens when you voluntarily shut down a substantial portion of your society."
A glimmer of hope. Finally, Buffett decided to try and convey a message of hope for Americans, in addition to business people worldwide. He argued with historical examples that, quote, nothing can stop America, unquote, with references to the Great Depression and Civil War, where he argued America was tested in the scariest of scenarios. Buffett concluded by advising shareholders to, quote, never bet against America, unquote. In this, he doubled down on his argument that America will prevail, closing by saying,
"We are now a better country, as well as an incredibly more wealthy country than we were in 1789.
Conclusion? That just about wraps up the key takeaways from the Berkshire Hathaway shareholders meeting, with Buffett's underlying message that people should not give up hope, and whilst the economy is in a volatile and unpredictable state, there is no need to panic.